We all know the houses. Now let's get to know some of their lesser known offerings that still deserve a lot of attention. This is most underrated gems from well-known houses. Round 2. Stick around for this one. Hey guys, back by popular demand, it's my underrated gems from well-known houses series. This is the second video of probably very many that I will end up doing over the course of several months. So as you've probably already deduced, the whole theme of this video is taking well-known fragrance houses, but giving you some really underrated offerings from each of those houses. Fragrances that, in my opinion, deserve way more hype than they get. And so, yeah, what are the criteria? Well, number 1, they have to be not very well known. Number 2, they have to be unique. Number 3, they have to be from a very well-known house. So without any further ado, let's get the list started. I'm going to start off with an honorable mention. It's Irreverent by Histoire de Parfums. This one here, hands down, the best resinous fragrance ever. It's all about elemi resin, so it's got some vanilla, it's citric, it's resinous, it's smoky. Absolutely phenomenal. Check out my review on Histoire de Parfums, my ranked list, if you want to know more about this one. Okay, so now the official list, starting with 212 Men, NYC by Carolina Herrera. The main notes in this one are violet, musk, citrus, and grass. So this is a very fresh, musky, citric, kind of floral fragrance. It screams very late 90s, early 2000s. I remember in that era, this stuff was just ubiquitous. I remember this particular smell, smelling it in grocery stores, just out in public. It seems like a lot of people were wearing this. Nowadays, it doesn't get any attention. Nobody is talking about this stuff. And I find it's a real shame because the smell of this, while not revolutionary or anything like that, is so fresh, so clean, so likable, but at the same time, it's very, very interesting. So like I said, it's fresh, out of the shower kind of fresh, but not in a modern blue shower gel aquatic way. However, I will say this, that mixture of the musks and the citruses does remind me a lot of Bleu de Chanel. Not one-to-one comparison or anything like that, but I have a feeling, you know, I could kind of say that this might have been like a precursor to that Bleu de Chanel type of DNA because it's fresh, out of the shower type. It's got a little bit of like, I don't know, some sort of fresh, out of the shower, grassy freshness that this, I don't know, and with the citruses and the musk especially, there's just something in here that brings my mind to that Bleu de Chanel DNA, but kind of like an older version, like a 90s, early 2000s version of Bleu de Chanel, if you will. It's 212 New York City Man by Carolina Herrera. Next one is Eau Noire from Dior. The main notes in this one are Immortelle, Sage, Licorice, and Olivanum. So it's very syrupy but herbal in the beginning because of that Immortelle. The Immortelle is going to give it kind of like a, I don't know, a caramelized, slightly licorice type of thing, but also there's some maple. You could compare this opening to maple syrup. Also, there's a sweet creaminess that reminds a lot of people of like a caramel coffee or something like that. I can kind of get those vibes, sure, if I let my imagination run wild a little bit. There's that vibe in the beginning. But there's also some sage, which gives it a woody herbaceousness to kind of counteract that sweetness in the opening. And while it's sweet, it never goes totally cloying. I really admire how it's able to stay sweet in the opening. Like I said, without going cloying, it's really interesting. This dries down with some licorice and sage. The licorice in this one is not extremely prominent, but it is there. This isn't a fragrance that's totally dominated by licorice like another one in this list is going to be actually. But this one here just kind of features licorice as a supporting note. And the licorice in this one doesn't go totally rooty or sweet or salty. It kind of goes a little bit herbal in the same way that anise does, but this doesn't go powder. Finally, I get some amber in the dry down. The amber is definitely vanillic and it's benzoinic as well. So there's a light dusting of like an incensey smoke in the dry down that really completes this fragrance. This is a super underrated fall winter gem from the private line of Christian Dior. Highly recommend it. Next one on the list is Penhaligon's Halfeti Cedar. So this one here has main notes of apricot, cedar, cinnamon, and vanilla. The vanilla and cinnamon in the opening smell a little bit like rum. And you know what? It's not really about the rum accord. That kind of does go away as the fragrance goes drying down. This one is really about the apricot. Now, the apricot is a stone fruit. So while it is a fruit, it also has a very mineralic quality to it. I don't find the fruit in this, I don't find the apricot goes cloyingly sweet at all. In fact, it maintains kind of like a fresh fruitiness in a mineralic sort of way, almost comparable perhaps to like a wet stone. I get that kind of feeling in this one here. Really, really nice, masculine, gentlemanly, refined, fruity fragrance with a heavy dose of cedar in the dry down. The cedar starts off very, very heavy. Smells like, you know, old kind of antique cedar, maybe like a chest of drawers or a grandfather clock or something. And it's really prominent here. This is a very woody fragrance. And as it goes drying down further, the cedar kind of turns a little bit drier and we get an aromatic, almost tinge of like incensey smoke. I find a lot of times cedar can go smoky on my skin, but this fragrance here, man, absolute masterpiece from the house of Penhaligons. In my opinion, it's my favorite from the Halfeti line. The other two members are quite nice, and there are a lot of other great members of this house, but I think this is one of the more underrated ones. Maybe not the most underrated, but I think it definitely fits into that category, and it's just an absolute masterpiece, and I love wearing this in the wintertime. Next up from the Purely Orient line over at Ajmal, we get Santal. So the main notes in this one are oud, sandalwood, saffron, and leather. Very prominent oudy opening, and it's a real oud, and it's got an animalic bite to it. So if you're not expecting real oud in this, like I wasn't before I ever tried this, it'll shock you a little bit because the opening, all about that oud. But that oud does calm down significantly. And later on, we get some saffron, which is going to add a little bit of a light, earthy, semi-sweet spiciness to this one. In the dry down, though, we start to get a lot of that sandalwood. I love the sandalwood note in this. It is one of the best sandalwood notes I think I've ever smelled in all of perfumery. It's very smooth. It goes a little bit creamy. Some might say there's a powdery characteristic as well. It's a little bit chalky, the sandalwood. It is utterly fantastic. If you love sandalwood, you have to get your noses on this one. And in the dry down, there's a decent amount of dark animalic leather. So all in all, this is a really dark Oriental style, you know, Middle Eastern style sandalwood fragrance. And while the sandalwood is very prominent, there are other notes in this that are equally as prominent, such as the leather and the oud, but only at the beginning. To make this so dark, yet so smooth and creamy and beautiful and woody and just amazing at the same time. In my opinion, it's one of the best sandalwood fragrances ever. And if you're a fan of that note, you have to have this in the collection. Next one is Kenzo Homme Marine here in the light marine clear blue bottle. So the main notes in this one are ylang ylang, calypsone, sandalwood, and guaiac wood. So this dries down with that characteristic spicy sandalwood and the woody, kind of sharp patchouli-esque akigala wood. But the opening of this is dominated by ylang ylang. So ylang ylang, it's a yellow floral, but what does it actually smell like? It smells like orange blossom, so very creamy, sweet citrus, but it also smells like an unripened banana, like a green, fresh, maybe sharp banana. So that combination is very tropical. It adds a very tropical vibe to this one. I mean, the other members of the line also have a tropical vibe, like a dark aquatic style, but this one here is just more on the, I don't know, coconutty side. Some people might get like a coconut, a vaguely coconut-esque accord in this one, where I guess I can see where they're coming from. But this one here, most underrated member of this line, but at the same time, it's pretty ubiquitous. It's easy to find in pretty much every perfume store you go to, and the performance is amazing. The quality is great. I mean, especially considering the low prices that these go for. It's just incredible, and I find, you know, while it does share that Kenzo Homme DNA with all the other members of the line, that ylang ylang really differentiates this. So one of my best aquatic fragrance recommendations, if you want like a dark aquatic with a tropical vibe, Hard to go wrong with this one, man. It's Kenzo Homme Marine. Next one is Bleu Noir Eau de Parfum by Narciso Rodriguez. So the main notes in this one are musk, ebony wood, citruses, and sandalwood. So this one is really about the musk and the sandalwood. It's a very soft, smooth, white musk. There's nothing animalic about this whatsoever, although it does kind of remind me of like the furry style of musk. But again, nothing animalic. There's nothing challenging about this fragrance. In fact, it's quite agreeable, quite soft. We get some ebony wood, which is kind of like a bitter wood. There's actually another fragrance on this list that includes ebony wood as well. The ebony wood in that one goes in a different direction. But in this fragrance here, the ebony wood is a little bit bitter, a little bit woody, adds like a slight darkness to it, but there's also a smoothness. There are a little bit of citruses in the top here to give it kind of like a freshness, but the citruses do wear off after a little while. And in the bottom, we're left with some very creamy sandalwood. Almost gives kind of like a lotiony vibe on the skin when this dries down all the way. Very agreeable, very musk heavy without going animalic in any way, shape, or form, which I find is really interesting. This is a very agreeable fragrance. It does have that Narciso DNA. It smells kind of like wet cement or maybe like the road after the rain, something like that. I can definitely get those vibes from this one. But I find this is the best in the Bleu Noir line. I really like it. I like it way more than the Parfum, certainly, and I definitely prefer this to the Eau de Toilette. And it's a soft fragrance. You can wear this anywhere. It's a very likable scent, but at the same time, it's got a little bit of a classiness and a refinement to it. Feel free to overspray with this one, guys, because it's a little bit on the softer side, like I said, but that does not subtract whatsoever from the amazing quality and scent profile of this. It's a Bleu Noir Eau de Parfum. Next one is Verte by Kilian. The main notes in this one are absinthe, licorice, violet leaf, and amber. What an amazing licorice-based fragrance. This one here starts with absinthe, so it's boozy, it's very herbal. It's got a licorice-like scent in the beginning, but it's mostly that minty, herbal, boozy quality that absinthe is known for. But when it starts to dry down, that absinthe goes away and we get the legitimate licorice note. The licorice comes out in all its glory towards the midlife of this fragrance. So it's very sweet, it's very salty at the same time, it's woody, it's very rooty. It's a photorealistic black licorice smell. And let me tell you, if you like licorice in a fragrance, I think this is probably the best licorice fragrance out there. In the dry down, there's some violet leaf that's gonna give it an ozonic quality, but also maybe a slight powderiness that could be reminiscent of iris in a way without going totally lipsticky or anything like that. And finally, there's a good amount of amber. So it's a vanillic benzoinic amber. It's resinous. It's got kind of like a semi-sweet vanilla, never goes cloying, but there's no smoke. It's not a smoky type of amber at all. All in all, this is a very smooth, yet at the same time bracing licorice-based fragrance with some sweetness, with some boozy notes. And in my opinion, this is definitely Kilian's most underrated fragrance. You know, Kilian as a house is known for mostly roses on ice and especially Angel's Share. I mean, look at how many clones of Angel's Share there are out there in the world. Verte, man, deserves way more hype than it gets. I mean, if you're a licorice fan, which granted not a lot of people are, but if you do like licorice, it doesn't get much better than this. It's Verte by Kilian. Next one is Oud Musk from Montale. The main notes in this one are vetiver, saffron, ebony wood, musk, and amber. So this one here opens up with very green, very biting vetiver. It's very dry. It's a little bit astringent in a way, mixed with like a little bit of spicy saffron. It's an interesting opening that might take some people off guard. This dries down though with some ebony wood. Now this is the other fragrance on this list with ebony wood. The ebony wood in this is much more prominent than it is in Bleu Noir. This one here, very bitter, very prominent dark wood, but this does dry down with some soft, fluffy musk, although very prominent, and some amber. That amber sweetness is gonna give it a very lightly vanillic, kind of dusty, maybe even smoky quality as well. This is one of Montale's most underrated works. It reminds people, including myself, a lot of the fragrance Duro by Nascimato, but it also definitely has Oud Wood vibes by Tom Ford. So if you're into Tom Ford's Oud Wood, if you're into Duro, but you want just like a more complex, more complete, a more deep, and definitely better performing fragrance, Oud Musk is absolutely one you should be trying out. The penultimate member of this list is Amir 2, another offering from Ajmal. The notes in this one are oud, nutmeg, cypriol oil, rose, musk, and incense. So this opens up with a very animalic, very strong oud and nutmeg combination. It's a very, very strong oud in the beginning, and mixed with that nutmeg, it's going to give it a spicy, kind of semi-sweet quality as well. Now, there's also a lot of cypriol oil, so it's going to give it kind of like a burnt, papery, vetiver vibe. Really interesting, could be off-putting for some people, but especially because of that integration of the cypriol oil, makes it smell a little bit like Encore Noir L'Extrême by Lalique, but like way stronger, way more complex. I could compare this maybe to like an Encore Noir L'Extrême on steroids. It's like a little bit of that in this. I can definitely see that. Later on, there's some rose, musk, and incense. Now, the rose is apparent throughout the entire life of this, but it's never a heavy, jammy, sweet, fruity rose. In fact, the rose lends a freshness to this, a floral freshness, but it's light. It's almost a little bit watery, kind of damp. It's one of those roses. And when roses are done in fragrances in the way that they're done in this, I love roses. I love the smell in perfumery. But at the same time, there are so many rose fragrances out there that put like a really jammy, heavy, sweet rose, which I do not like. So it's a fine line, but the way the rose is done in here, and I know a lot of you guys feel the same way. If you think you don't like rose and you love Middle Eastern heavy, animalic, woody, smoky fragrances, give this one a try. You might change your mind. And finally, this finishes off with musk and incense, animalic musk, definitely, but it still maintains that kind of fluffy quality, sure. And some nice, fine Middle Eastern incense in the dry now. This is absolutely the best oud fragrance on the market as far as I'm concerned. Now, why do I say that? Because first of all, it's real oud. Ajmal uses real oud. They own a bunch of Aquilaria plantations. They actually provide oud oil to a lot of Western niche houses. So there's that. Great quality oud, some of the best quality oud in the world, actually. So we get the quality. The smell itself, too, is absolutely regal and indulgent, if you're a fan of this style of fragrance, at least. The performance is there, the quality is there, the smell is there, most importantly, but also the price. This is a relatively affordable fragrance, but I'll tell you this, if this same scent was marketed by Frederic Malle or Xerjoff or even Amouage, for example, rest assured you would be paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for this bottle. But when this fragrance exists, you don't have to do that because this is much more affordable than any of those. And it's just an absolutely spectacular fragrance. It's Amir 2 by Ajmal. Number 1 on the list is Pachuli Kozha from Nishane. The main notes in this one, whiskey, honey, leather, and florals. So this opens up very, very whiskey-like, very boozy, and there's also some honey mixed in there as well. Those particular characteristics might be coming from the patchouli itself, but I find this very, very distinct whiskey, very, very distinct honey. It's an amazing opening here. And we do get some florals in here as well, notably chamomile, to add a very interesting, lightly floral, almost kind of tea-like nuance in this, which is just a very interesting addition. This dries down with some smooth but very dark leather. It's not an animalic type of leather, but it's very smooth, dark, kind of like I would compare it maybe to Ombre Leather by Tom Ford. Also, there's a light dusting of incense that kind of hangs over everything in this to give a very, very lightly smoky, incensey vibe. I think it works very well. This is one of Nishane's most underrated fragrances, in my opinion. They do have other ones, but this is my favorite. Everybody knows about Annie. Everybody knows about Fan Your Flames. Everybody knows about especially Hatchavat. This stuff gets no attention, and it absolutely breaks my heart because I think it's one of the best fragrances from the house. It's Pachuli Kozha. Okay, guys, so that's list number 2 of very underrated hidden gems from well-known fragrance houses. Do you guys have any fragrances that fit into that category? What are your favorites? What do you think of my list? Which members would you add to my list? Which members would you subtract from it? Let's get the conversation going, guys, as always. I gotta take off for now, but this won't be the last underrated gems list on my channel. And until next time, I hope you guys keep it real.